I'm a natural storyteller, and I knew that I had more to give, and I knew that there were a ton of businesses that needed more help in the branding and design worlds.
Welcome back to For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. I am Eric Verdi, episode 7. With us today is Laura Wallace with Worx Co. LauraAura is her nickname. She's a visionary. She helps entrepreneurs and business owners with branding, strategic alliances, kind of helping them move forward in their path and their journey. You know, us as entrepreneurs, we have a vision. Sometimes we don't know how to get to that vision, or we're not really clear on that vision. So Laura kind of helps businesses brand, entrepreneurs brand. I had Laura on the prior podcast, Frederick Advice Givers, about 3 years ago. Laura has her own podcast. She's written a book, 1 or 2. How many books?
1.
She's written a book.
One in the making. One in the making.
One in the making. She is a super awesome person. Love having her on. Love talking with her. So, Laura, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back, Eric. This is exciting.
It is. So for our listeners and viewers that don't know you, give us your backstory.
Oh, the backstory. Okay. So I am a graphic designer by nature. I started my career as a yellow page designer, creating ads for the back of the phone book. And as you can imagine, that was just as exciting as it sounds. And as I was working there, you know, the salespeople would bring in these, what they called spec ads for these businesses. And I would come into a stack on my desk and be asked to create ads for these businesses. As the time went on, I realized that I wanted to know more about those businesses. I wanted to hear from the owners. I wanted to know why they were doing this. I wanted to know what they were doing and learn just more about who they were. And that wasn't an option in that position. So when I was 6.5 months pregnant with my son, I built up the Gutsy. I quit my full-time job and started Worx. So since that's like the way back story, that was this July will be 13 years since all of that. And over the years, you know, my career and my entrepreneurial journey has continued to open up and blossom and unfold. So most recently, you know, I'm still the CEO and creative director of Worx Co. Like you mentioned, I have the Gutsy Podcast, which is bi-weekly episodes for entrepreneurs. We're getting real, raw, and ridiculous about, you know, all the stuff that happens up here in entrepreneurialism. And my newly launched website for LauraAura.com, which is branding and mindset consulting for female entrepreneurs.
I love it. So real, raw, and ridiculous. Is that your brand? Is that your branding for the podcast?
That's my branding for the podcast. Yeah, it's you get me and my rawness. I have a big, strong, kind of silly, ridiculous personality. So you know, through my journey, I've learned that, you know, just really embracing who you are really can lend into who you are as a brand. And if either one of those things are out of alignment, something is usually missing. So I show up unapologetically as I am. And the cool thing is when you do that, you attract more people. You attract more of the right people, I should say.
Absolutely. So triple R. I love it. So Laura, you know, when you started your journey 13 years ago, what was it that you wanted to accomplish? Like, what, you know, how did you start out? Why did you start out? And then what have you found? And when did you find out your superpower of being a visionary and a consultant?
Okay. So what did I want to accomplish when I started my business? Did you want to help businesses? Was it just strictly money? Like when you started out, you know, you were doing the yellow pages. Like what was it that, hey, I think I can help make a greater good, or like what was that, the why behind the why? Not the why, but the why behind the why. The why behind the why. You know, I think I just really wanted the opportunity to have more creative freedom myself and also to be able to impact businesses positively. I wanted that connection. I wanted to tell those stories. I think that's maybe the why behind the why is I'm a natural storyteller, and I knew that I had more to give, and I knew that there were a ton of businesses that needed more help in the branding and design world. So I just really wanted to lock arms and understand more about, you know, entrepreneurialism as a whole.
And when did you find your superpower, like what you're doing today? What's your passion today? How did you find that?
You know,
Have you-
I don't know that there's been one defining moment of that. I think it's really been a series of building over time. So if I'm thinking about where I am today compared to where I was when I started 13 years ago, I am a much more defined version of myself. And I think it's through time and experiences and mistakes and victories that you start to uncover, you know, kind of your sweet spot or your in what you call a superpower. So, you know, just as I was working with businesses and I grew more confidence and I started like sharing my ideas verbally with people, and I started like allowing myself to be energetically who I am outwardly, I started noticing how people and clients would respond differently to that, and how their success actually was in, you know, in alignment with the more I brought to them, the more it raised their bar, which, like, you know, you just kind of get this energy field that goes and goes and goes, and everybody wins in the end. So it's been a slow build. And I would say just over the last 2 years or so, I've really just embraced the superpower.
So what is it that Works in Co does?
So Works & Co. is an urban branding studio. We work with entrepreneurs to create purpose-built brands. So I like to say, like, businesses with a heartbeat or a mission, a story, something that we can really connect to. We work really, really well with businesses and owners who are just insanely passionate about what they do and feel just really connected to making something out of this, not just to improve their own lives, but to improve the lives of their clients as well.
So here is the time to, toot your own horn. How many businesses have you helped? How many entrepreneurs have you helped? What transformation have you helped? Maybe an example or two, a story or two. What businesses have you helped?
Yeah. So at Works, we've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. We've built, I think, over 150 brands. We've won over 120 awards for our work. We've been featured as a top small business in the United States 2 years by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So I think something is working all right over there. I love transformation stories, not just because it's exciting, but it's like proof that branding works and the spirit of an entrepreneur works as well. So one of my favorite stories is a longtime client, Savvy Food Safety. She started her business in her house in the basement, actually I think in a bedroom, if I'm not mistaken. Her first year in business, she did $600. She is a fiery, passionate, like, I'm going to do this and nothing's going to stop me type of entrepreneur, which are my favorite. Hungry, driven. And last year she did just over $1 million in business. So $600 to $1 million, pretty awesome scale. That's over a course of time, but she invested in her branding. She invested in her marketing. She really takes her branding seriously. And ta-da, it works.
Works. I love that. It works.
It happens.
So what would a typical relationship with a client look like? I know helping branding, but give me specifics. Give me, like, okay, we come in day one, we analyze your business, we do a deep dive. Then give me how maybe a 60-day period with working with Works & Co. would work.
Yeah. So one of the very first things, actually the very first thing we do is something called a discovery call. That's a 15, 20-minute conversation. It's like, just let's put the feels out there, because the relationship when you're working with somebody in branding, whether it's us or somebody else, there has to be a natural synergy. There has to be a level of excitement. There has to be a level of trust. Everyone needs to be on the same boat, in the same ocean, rowing towards the same direction. So this discovery call just gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about how we can help you. It gives us an opportunity to learn more about your business and what your goals are. Is this something, it's like a vibe check, right? Like, are we good for each other? Should we go out on a date type of thing? Which is really good because, often we're talking about budgets in that call. Like, I'm not all about wasting people's time. And I have a lot of respect for businesses. I think having the money conversation early on is something that is often missed. So let's just talk about it, because we could all be like super hyped up and ready to go. But if the budgets are not in alignment, let me get you onto your next success. And if they are in alignment, fantastic. The next thing we're going to do is have you come into the office and have an exploratory meeting. So exploratory.
So this is how long after the discovery call?
It depends. It depends on schedules.
When schedules match.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It can happen as soon as a couple of days to a week. It depends on, schedules on both sides. But in that exploratory meeting, it's a bit more of a deeper dive to your business and what's going on. What are your challenges? What problems are you facing in the business right now? And then also understanding, like, why are you coming to us? Why do you think branding is the answer? What are your pain points, and how can we solve some of those through branding and marketing? And then after that, we'd put together a proposal.
So who's in this exploratory meeting? Is it just you and the client, or do you have partners, or do you have?
Yeah, it's typically me and the client. It's a really nice intimate setting. Sometimes the client has a couple of people involved in the business, I like to have whoever's going to be potentially involved in the project in that meeting, because it's really hard for a single human to go back and explain even the transformation that they had in an exploratory meeting to a partner, or anybody that's involved in their leadership team that's going to be involved in the project. So anybody that's going to be involved is involved in the exploratory meeting.
Okay, perfect. Then?
So then we do another vibe check. We talk about like preliminary budget numbers as well. We talk about time frame, all that stuff that nobody wants to talk about, we just lay it on the table. Because again, what I'm looking for is alignment on both sides. So we're talking about like preliminary numbers, and if everything is, sounding and feeling good on both sides, then we'll put together a proposal. Proposal basically is just a reiteration of what we agreed on in the exploratory meeting. And that's where we do all the like technical, legal mumbo jumbo stuff that nobody loves to do, but is absolutely necessary for both people.
Okay, and then the proposal signed, then what happens?
Proposal signed.
So do you work on websites? Do you work on Facebook campaigns, Instagram ads, Google AdWords? Like, what do you work on? Help the client. Do you work on logos?
Yeah, that's a really solid question, Eric. So we focus on 4 main areas. Identity, that's first and foremost. That is your logo system, your colors, your fonts, your tone, all that like foundational branding stuff. We work on websites, which is your online presence. That also typically involves like social media graphics, like a launch campaign, or like the header and the profile image, like all that stuff needs to be optimized. We take care of that stuff for you. Mm-hmm. Ongoing campaigns. So if you have a product that needs marketed, or just promotions, we help with the design and the content and the execution of those. We bring in a marketing partner for the actual implementation, because that's a whole animal, like Facebook ads and email campaigns and like that stuff is a whole thing of its own. And then maybe one of my favorite parts of what we focus on is office branding. So we bring the brand inside to your area of business, whether it's, a retail store or an office space or a restaurant. There's a brand experience that can really benefit your business, your finances, your customers' experiences, like the whole thing. It's just like wraps it all up in a nice little bow.
Awesome. So I know you're working on your new website. Are there any, are are there any sites you want to promote? Are there any courses that you teach? Any free courses, online courses, anything like that?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked. So Works & Co is still rocking and rolling, but I have found through my superpower that there is an area that I really love to serve, and that is the brand and mindset consulting for female entrepreneurs. So LauraAura.com is my new website, and that is really focusing on helping female entrepreneurs to take their power back. So I'm getting ready to launch the Power Back course, which will be available on the site pretty soon. I do brand consulting. There's such an interesting connection that I have found that, and I think I mentioned this earlier, there has to be alignment with yourself and your brand for those pieces to come together for your business to really excel. If one of those pieces is out of alignment, it can be really challenging, and it can leave entrepreneurs feeling tired and overwhelmed and sometimes resentful of their business because the business is running them instead of them running the business. So through these courses, through one-on-one consulting, we're working through some of those areas. Sometimes it's in the mind. Sometimes it's in the physical, tangible, visual brand. But we're working on bringing both of those pieces together so that you can just kill it in your business and feel good on the inside doing it.
So spell out your two websites, please.
Sure. It's Works is worksand.co. So it's WORXAND.co. And then if you want to check out LauraAura, it's LauraAura.com.
That was my question. So two A's.
Two A's, yes.
Awesome. So when would a business or an entrepreneur in their life cycle come to you?
Super great question. In both aspects, for both Works and LauraAura, I work extremely well with businesses that have been in business for a couple of years, typically like 3 to 5-ish years. Not necessarily a startup anymore, but also not feeling like they're exactly where they want to be either. A lot of these entrepreneurs have bootstrapped it in the beginning. They've done a lot of the stuff on their own for a long time, so they have perspective and respect for what goes into all of the different roles to owning a business, and they're ready to offload it, right? They realize, like, I can't do it all anymore, and I don't want to do it all anymore. I need some assistance, and branding is one of those pieces that can gladly go to somebody else. So it's a really nice sweet spot. And it's, when you first launch your business, you're often a very different version of yourself than what you are 3 to 5 years into it. You've figured out yourself a little bit more. You've kind of got the gist of who you are and what you want to do, who you like to work with. That's a big one. So by the time they're coming to us, it's like, okay, I've kind of worked out some of the kinks. Now I need to just really tighten things up.
Right. Awesome. So if a business wanted to get in touch with you, they would, check you out on your websites. What's the best way to get a hold of you, Laura?
Yeah. So you can go to either one of those websites. There are links to book discovery calls on both websites. I'm also super active on Instagram. So if you want to check out either one of our feeds, the links to those are on the websites as well. And you can DM me on there. I love to answer some initial questions. I love to have interaction, have really good conversations. So I'm pretty accessible.
Awesome. Laura, thank you for joining us this week on For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's great seeing you again. So episode 7 with Laura Wallace, Works & Co. and LauraAura.com. Hope you enjoyed her interview. If you are a small business owner, small or medium-sized business owner, you probably don't deal with Fortune 100, 500 companies, do you?
No, it's small business is our sweet spot for sure.
Okay. So if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, and you need help with branding, marketing, finding your identity, websites, graphics, Laura and Works are a great company, great resource to check out. And with that, episode 7, we are out.